Welcome back to another tutorial of G Suite for Education. Today we are going to be taking a look at Google Meet and getting the most out of video conferencing. Okay, so Google Meet is a very simple program. When you get to the website, you'll notice that the background changes, and if you have been invited to a particular meeting, you'll see that in the list under Nothing Scheduled Today right here. You'll see a variety of options and things. As far as settings go, the only thing you really get is setting up your different audio sources, your how you're able to listen to it, as well as any kind of video sources and things like that. The camera failing right here is simply because I'm recording with the camera that I would be using for Google Meet, so it may not work in this particular recording the way you would expect, but just know that generally that's going to pop up and it should work just fine. What we're going to do is we're going to click on Join or Start a Meeting. Now, some of the interesting things to note about this. If you were to put in an example, a name, a specific meeting code that you want to utilize, what's going to happen is Google's going to hold on to that for as long as someone's in that meeting. But as soon as you leave, that meeting's going to go away. It's gone, it's released. The resources on Google's end are freed up so they can maintain other connections. By leaving it blank, what's going to happen when we hit continue here is it's going to generate an automatic code, which you can see is right here, the ZXXGIMI-NJS. That is an arbitrary code that's going to generate different ones every time. And you can see that there's a phone number as well as a PIN number that you're going to utilize for those that are unable to get to a device like a smartphone with a webcam or have internet connection, tablet, laptop, things like that. And then once they dial in, it's going to ask that they enter in the PIN followed by the pound sign, and off you go. Now, in general, if you are the one creating the meeting, you would be tempted to select Present. The downside with doing this is that it's actually going to limit some of your functionality once you get into the meeting. So you don't have the same control that you would expect. Now I'm going to go ahead and click Join Now, and that's going to load me into the actual meeting itself. You'll notice once again, I get this little pop-up that's saying here are the different ways that people can join the meeting. If I want to send an email, I can click on Add People and type in email addresses directly, or I can even enter in a phone number and have the meeting call out to those phone numbers. Probably not something you're going to do that often, but it's kind of neat just to know that it's there. Just to go over the user interface, down here you have meeting details. Once again, here's that option to be able to see what's going on. There's a phone number there, there's a PIN. Attachments are only going to be available if you created this in a Google Calendar event. So if you came into your Google Calendar and you created this meeting, you scheduled it, you sent out the invites at the time, one of the options you have in Google Calendar is to attach files to that event. Attaching files, things like PowerPoint presentation or a Google Slides, any kind of zip files or documents that people might need to be able to read through. This is a great way to give them the file so they already have it, and then that way you're not spending as much bandwidth sending information back and forth. Everybody can turn off cameras if they wanted to, or you have a little bit more control as well. Down here in the middle, you can see in the browser version, you're going to have a microphone to be able to mute or unmute yourself. You're going to have leaving the call, and then of course you can control the camera by turning it on and off depending on the situation. Captions is something that I'm not going to say is necessary or necessarily beneficial. It's going to be dependent on a lot of different situations. If you have a poor mic, if there's a lot of noise happening or things like that, the way the captions work is the Google engine being able to interpret what you're saying and automatically generate text for it. It's not perfect. It does make mistakes, so just be aware that in some instances it might produce words or words or spelling that may not be appropriate for all ages, so I don't recommend using captions unless absolutely necessary. The ability to present basically takes whatever device you have, your laptop, your desktop, and so forth, and allows you to push that information, that whole screen, out to someone else. So if I were to click on present, you'll notice I can either choose a window or your entire screen. If you're not really familiar with the computer and you're not as comfortable, I recommend your entire screen. You'll get this pop-up right here where I can simply select it and then hit share. That's going to take everything that's on my screen all the way down to my action bar, the clock, everything, and present to the people that are in the meeting. So just be aware of that if you have sensitive information or things that you don't want shared. Certainly don't turn that on. The three-dot menu here in the corner gives you a few other options. You can record your meeting. What this is going to do is create two separate files in Google Drive. One is going to be the video of the actual conversation and audio. The other one is going to be the chat log in a text document, so you can actually read through what people typed, questions they might have had, and things of that nature. Changing the layout is a neat little option where you can choose how you want it organized. If you have, let's say, 5 or more people in it, it's automatically going to choose this sidebar option. If you do tiled, that's if you're going to have maybe 3 people and you want one person to kind of be the primary focus. And then Spotlight allows you to bring up just one massive screen of whoever is talking at the time. In any of these situations, by default, Google Meet will switch to displaying the video of the person who is talking at that moment. If you have a slower internet connection, this can definitely cause issues where the browser is trying to switch back and forth between the different sources. And it can be just confusing in general when you have one person who's maybe talking and everybody's listening, and then somebody coughs and suddenly you're seeing this, somebody else in the meeting at, for a split second, and then it goes back to the person. So again, changing these options are just a layout. They're not going to fix that issue. Up here in the top right corner, you can see that we have the list of people that are currently in the meeting. And then to the right of that, we have the chat log. And the chat log works just like any other chat log. You can type and everybody is going to see that. It's going to post it with who posted, what time they posted, and then of course the actual phrase or comments that they've posted. Okay. So you can see right here that I have obviously connected using my Google Meet. I'm on my phone and getting a little bit of feedback because my microphone is presenting out of my phone, which is being picked up by the microphone again. So I'm going to kind of move that off, and you can see my green screen there, which is a little interesting. So let me show you what some of the things you can do. You'll notice up here in the top right corner, if I choose it, I can now see the one that I'm connected to that's hosting the meeting. And then here's the one down here that's on my phone. And notice I have muted it, but the phone is still outputting audio. What I can do is hit this little drop down here, and you can see I've got 3 options here. I can pin them, I can unmute someone else, or it says I can't unmute them at the moment. That's simply because of control and things of that nature, which Google is working on changing. And then, of course, I can remove them from the meeting if I choose to. If you are on a slower internet connection, this is the key. Choose Pin to Screen, and now whoever you have pinned to the screen, no matter what, will stay on your screen. It ignores the rest of the video presentations. You'll still hear the audio. That's not very much data or things of that nature, but it's going to limit you so that you just have that source being pinned to the middle of your display. Okay, so I am using an Android-based phone, and I wanted to show you how Google looks on the tablet or phone version, just so you can get an idea of what the differences are. I'm going to go ahead and open up the Meet application. You can see right there I'm available on the Meet. Now if I swipe up, you can see that it's going to give me a list of any meetings that might be available. And then if I go back here, I can change through my different accounts to see who's doing that. But right off the bat, you can see at the bottom here, I can mute and I can unmute, and I can also turn off the camera and I can bring the camera back. If I was going to join a meeting, I'm going to simply enter a meeting code, and my meeting code is going to be this right here. Now the nice thing is you don't have to enter in the hyphens that are on the URL. It will work without it. I'm going to type that and hit join. And on the computer, because I'm not part of the organization that uses it, it's going to ask me if I can join. I'm going to hit admit. And there you can see that I've now joined the meeting. So if you take a look at the user interface, you'll be able to tell that I can easily see the list of people. The little arrow next to the person, I can select that. And you can see that I can now pin them, I can mute them, I can remove them right from there. Now keep in mind, you can only control the muting of yourself. You cannot mute other people. If I pin another person, that allows me to make sure that their video is always up on the screen, which is a great way to minimize how much bandwidth you're using. And then of course the text messaging or chat message right there, it's just like texting. And then last, of course, you have the information. And if there were any attachments in the Google Calendar, you could access them right there as well. All right, so I just wanted to go over this real quick before I let you go. Basically, these features that are available on G Suite for Education have a timer. And what I mean by that is you'll notice that they've extended it to all G Suite customers through July 1st of 2020 to support employees, educators, and students as they move and work and learn remotely. So what that means is that a lot of the features that you currently have with Google Meet may not be available down the road, so just be aware of that. One of the improvements that they've made, which is fantastic, and I've been testing it, I believe that they've already rolled out these improvements, is you can see that only the meeting creators and calendar owners can mute or remove participants in the meeting. This is a great improvement, especially for teachers, since you don't want students to have the ability to mute each other or remove each other from the meet. And then of course it shows that meeting participants will not be able to rejoin nicknamed meetings once the final participant has left. So again, like I mentioned before, if you give it a unique name, this is My Cool Hangout, and then you join it, once everybody's left, that meeting is done. You'd have to recreate it if you wanted to be able to access it. So again, I hope that this information has been useful for you. There are definitely a lot of changes happening on the G Suite for Education, so stay tuned to find out what other options and opportunities we have for G Suite for Education, and I'll see you next time.